Good evening, friends. I'm Mr. Narratory, and I'll be your voice tonight as we ease into rest. If these stories help you unwind, take a moment to like and subscribe. It really supports the channel. And I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments below. Now, get comfortable, close your eyes if you'd like, because it's time for tonight's story. This one's different. This one's not about spirits or whispers or old houses breathing at night. This one's about what happens when a place forgets how to let go of the dead, and what kind of man keeps the bodies from leaving. I was hired to clean out a funeral home, one of those old family-owned ones, way out in the valley, closed for years. A woman named Celia contacted me, said it was her grandfather's place, said she needed someone with a strong stomach and no questions. Paid in cash. $3,000, 2 days' work, clear out furniture, toss old documents, leave anything sealed alone. That last part should have stopped me, but I needed the money, so I said yes. She mailed the key, handwritten directions, a warning: don't turn off the generator in the basement. The building was isolated, no neighbors, no lights, just fog rolling over the road like water. The sign still stood out front: Blackwood Funeral Home. The paint had peeled until it looked like bone. I parked out back. The gravel shifted under the tires like something moving beneath it. The front door was already unlocked. Inside, everything was wrong. The air was cold. Not natural cold. Industrial cold. Like walking into a meat locker. The lobby was intact. Old chairs, brochures, a guest book still open to a funeral from 2014. The name had been scribbled out deeply, ripped right through the page. I stepped further in. The hall smelled like bleach and rot. I covered my mouth and gagged. The floor creaked. The lights buzzed like they hadn't been used in years. One flickered nonstop. I found the office. Everything covered in dust except the desk. Clean. Papers stacked. A folder left open. Inside photos. Black and white. Faces that had been carved apart, not surgically. Violently, I shut the folder. Something dripped behind me. I turned. The wall near the door was stained dark. A single hook in the ceiling still held a chain. The chain was wet. The drip hit the floor once more. Red, thick. I didn't touch it. I should have left. But I told myself it was rust. Just rust. I walked into the chapel room. Empty pews. A casket on the stage. Closed, but not latched. I put a hand on it, cold, vibrating, just slightly, like something breathing underneath. I didn't open it. I found the basement key on a nail behind the counter, taped with a note. Do not turn off the freezer. I took it anyway. The door to the basement was locked tight. When it opened, the smell nearly knocked me out. Formaldehyde. Meat, decay. I went down slow. The stairs groaned. The walls were damp. Black patches spread like veins. The generator hummed in the back room. Pipes ran into the walls, deep into the floor. I didn't see any bodies, not at first. But the cold room door was open. Inside, metal tables, surgical tools, and a pile of plastic-wrapped shapes against the wall. 6 of them, stacked, some smaller than others. A bone stuck out of one, still red, still dripping. I backed out, turned to leave. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, not mine, bare, wet. Coming from the room across the hall, I stood frozen. A voice called out, hoarse, low, "Don't touch the work." Then the light shut off. The lights went out fast. No flicker, just gone. I froze, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Only the hum of the generator kept me from screaming. It wasn't loud, but it was steady. The kind of sound you cling to when everything else gets too quiet. I heard the footsteps again. Slower now, measured, wet, skin on concrete. They moved past the cold room toward the stairs, then stopped. Just outside the embalming room, the door creaked open half an inch. I backed into the shadows, behind the gurney. Tools still laid out. Scalpel, bone saw, forceps, all clean, polished, used. The air was cold enough to burn my nose, but I didn't dare make a sound. A shape moved through the crack, tall, thin, wearing a butcher's apron, no shirt, bare feet, pale skin. He sniffed like an animal, then whispered. I know the sound of new blood. I pressed my hand over my mouth. The gurney rattled. Something underneath it jerked. I looked down. One of the bags. It moved, just an inch, but enough. Enough to know whatever was inside wasn't dead, or hadn't been when it was wrapped. I couldn't scream. I couldn't run. I just watched as his hand dragged along the table. Fingernails yellow, long, the kind of hand that spent more time cutting than writing. He walked to the back of the room, picked up something off the shelf. A needle, big, industrial, meant for injecting embalming fluid. He loaded it like a syringe. Something dark inside, thicker than blood, thicker than oil. I didn't blink, didn't breathe. He turned and walked toward the table again, toward the bag that had moved. He knelt, whispered something to it. Stop thrashing. You'll ruin the stitching. The bag went still, completely. Like it knew it had been caught. He slid the needle in, slow, like he enjoyed it. I heard a gurgle, then nothing. He stood, sighed. I liked that one. Then turned, left the room. The door shut behind him. I waited, minutes, maybe longer, until the hum of the generator swallowed the silence again. Then I moved, crawled out, past the table, past the wall of tools, toward the bags. There were 6, 5 still sealed, 1 open, the one he'd just injected. The body inside was small, female, late teens maybe. The skin was gray, eyes open, mouth stitched shut. But the chest, it moved, barely. Like she wasn't dead, like she was trapped under whatever he'd pumped into her. I touched her hand. It twitched. I backed away. Didn't know what to do. Couldn't call for help. No service. Couldn't run. He was still upstairs. I looked around for weapons. Only tools. Sharp, but loud. Too loud. I moved to the hallway. Followed it to the generator room. Still running. Still warm. The pipes connected to a box on the wall. Freezer lines. But also something else. Tubes that led into the floor. Into the wall. I opened the box, found wires, cut one, just one. The lights flickered. Then the hallway lit back up. I ran back toward the stairs, but stopped halfway. There were bags on the steps. 3, unzipped, empty. Drag marks leading down, like they'd climbed out or had help. I heard breathing, not mine, from the ceiling, from the vent, wet and steady. Then a voice. They don't like the lights. I turned. The butcher stood at the top of the stairs, holding something, a jawbone, human, still fresh. They wake up too soon when I forget to drain the neck. He started coming down. I backed away, tripped over a bag. It rolled. Something inside groaned. I saw her again, the girl. Eyes moving now, lips trembling under the stitching. I crawled to her, unzipped the top. Her eyes locked on mine, pleading, panicked. I started cutting. The blade was dull, but the thread gave. 1 stitch, 2, 3. Her mouth opened. No scream, just breath. Then a whisper. He said I was the last. Then from behind may his voice, I lied. Then everything went black. I woke up strapped to cold metal, wrist tight, ankles bound, head aching, mouth dry. The light above me buzzed, yellow, dim, flickering. I couldn't move more than a few inches. My fingers twitched. The leather was soaked with something, not water, not sweat, something darker, sticky. The room smelled like bleach and open meat. I tried to scream, but my throat burned. I wasn't gagged, just hoarse, dried out, emptied. Across the room, another table sat in shadow. Something moved on it, slowly, not thrashing, just shifting, like it didn't have the strength to fight anymore. A voice, female, small, strained. You're real. I didn't answer. Couldn't. She said it again. Please don't be another one of his masks. I told her I wasn't. That I was just a cleaner. That I didn't know what this place really was. She laughed. It broke halfway through, like her ribs were still healing. That's what he always says. That he's just here to fix things. Then he starts carving. I heard footsteps above us, slow, measured, pacing. She went quiet. I did too. He doesn't like us talking. I asked how long she'd been here. She said time doesn't work down here. You only feel it in blood. And how many times he comes back with the needle? How many nights you wake up sewn shut? I pulled against the straps. They held. But one of the buckles on my left wrist groaned, loose, cracked, maybe old. I twisted, hard, skin tearing. But the strap gave, not much, just enough to bend. The girl across the room whispered fast now, he's coming. He always comes when we talk too much. I saw movement in the corner. A curtain swayed. Something stepped behind it. Then stillness. Then the saw started. I knew the sound. I'd heard it on the tray earlier. A bone saw, high-pitched, hungry. I yanked the strap again, harder. Wrist bleeding now, but it snapped. My hand was free. I reached across, fumbling, sweating, got one ankle loose. Then the other. I left the other wrist. No time. I slid off the table, fell hard, hit the floor with my shoulder, stayed down. The saw stopped. The curtain shifted. A voice behind it, soft, almost kind. Did you fall again, sweetheart? You know I have to reset you now. I crawled to the shadows, hid behind a broken cabinet. The girl didn't speak. Her breathing picked up, fast, shallow. The curtain pulled back. He stepped out, taller than I remembered. Mask on now. Leather, stitched, with a mouth drawn in chalk. Apron soaked, holding the saw like a child would hold a teddy bear. He walked to her table, hummed something. I couldn't place the tune. He touched her face, smiled. Even behind the mask, I felt it. Then he leaned down and whispered, "Let's find out how much you remember." He started the saw. She screamed. Not loud, just enough to make the walls flinch. I didn't run. I should have, but I couldn't leave her. I crawled to the tray, grabbed the scalpel, stood. My legs shook, but I walked, quiet, steady. He didn't hear me. Too focused, too slow. I plunged the scalpel into his side. Not deep, but enough. He turned, fast, raised the saw. I ducked. He missed, hit the tray. Metal clattered. I grabbed the bone mallet, swung, hit his leg. He dropped, howled. I hit again and again. His mask cracked. His hand reached for me, but I wasn't stopping. I kept hitting until the saw stopped spinning, until the breath changed, until the blood pooled. I backed away, dropped the mallet, went to her, cut the straps. Her wrists were bone, her legs barely moved, but she whispered, "Thank you." I told her we had to go. She said the back door leads to the cremation chute. That's how he gets rid of the ones that don't keep. We moved together, slow. She leaned on me. Every step hurt, every corner breathed. I opened the back door. The chute was there. A steel slide into dark. We didn't care. We slid down. Metal burned. The air tasted like ash. At the bottom, dirt, cold and wet. But we were outside, trees above, stars, silence. I turned to her. She was crying. I was shaking. We didn't speak. We ran. We ran through the woods until our lungs gave out, until our legs went numb, until the air stopped smelling like meat and copper. I don't remember falling, just the sound of dry leaves and the feel of her fingers gripping my wrist like it was the only thing keeping her from sinking. We found a road, no lights, just gravel and black sky. Then headlights, a truck, old, rusted, coming fast. I stepped out, waved. The driver slammed the brakes. A man leaned out, late 60s, beard like tree bark, eyes too calm. "What the hell are you two doing out here?" I said we needed help. I said there was someone in the funeral home. A killer, a man carving bodies. He didn't flinch, didn't ask questions, just nodded. "Get in." The girl collapsed in the back seat. I climbed in beside her. The heater was broken. The radio was older than I was. The man didn't speak until we hit pavement. Then he asked, "Which one of you went into the basement?" I didn't answer. He nodded like he already knew. The station was small, just 2 deputies and a radio. I tried to explain, told them about the body bags. The girl, the saw, the man in the apron. They didn't write anything down, didn't ask me to sit. The younger deputy looked sick. The older one looked bored. You said Blackwood? I nodded. He leaned back. That place has been empty 10 years. No electricity, no access, no business license, no death certificates. I said I had proof. I said we saw him, heard him, that there was blood, a body. He just shrugged. Happens sometimes. Minds play tricks out there. Cold rooms make ghosts. I grabbed his desk, told him to drive out, check the basement. The girl backed me up, said he kept her there, stitched her lips shut, that he talked to her like she was a doll. The deputy stood, real slow, walked over to the door, closed it, locked it, then turned to me. You want advice? Leave this town. Don't come back. Don't ask questions. Don't file anything. I asked why. He said because that man's family built this place. Paid for everything. Even paid to shut it down. Said he was sick. Said he was done. But no one ever went inside to check. They just took his word. Now it's quiet. We like it that way. I said that was insane. He smiled. Then leave insane behind. I looked at the girl. She nodded. We walked out. The man in the truck was gone. So was the truck. We sat at the edge of the parking lot until sunrise. A bus pulled in. I asked where it was going. Didn't care. Just wanted distance. We rode for hours, slept in turns. When I woke up, she was holding my hand like she hadn't slept in years. We got off 2 towns over, found a motel, paid cash. I called the state police, told them everything. They said someone would check. No one called back. 2 days later, I went online. Looked for news. Nothing, no reports, no crime scene, no tape, just a real estate listing. The Blackwood Funeral Home. Newly listed, ready for restoration. Includes full mortuary setup. Contact for tour. I booked one. I had to see it. She begged me not to go. I told her I needed to know. I took a cab. Hour ride. The air changed halfway there. Same smell, faint, cold metal and wet dirt. The house looked the same, cleaner maybe, but wrong. Too quiet. I walked the rooms, same desk, same chapel, same cold room, empty, no bags, no hooks, no blood. I asked about the basement. The realtor smiled, said it was sealed for safety. I asked what happened to the tools, the gurneys. He said it had been empty for a decade. I asked if anyone lived there recently. He said no, but the power was still on, the pipe still warm. I asked why. He shrugged. Some things don't shut off easy. I left, got back to the motel, told her everything was gone. She didn't look surprised. She just whispered, "That's because he only lives in the rooms that forget." I didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. Something tapped on the motel wall around 2 a.m. 3 times. Not loud, but steady, rhythmic, like a saw blade starting up. She covered her ears. I stared at the ceiling, and I wondered what it would feel like to wake up strapped down again. She didn't talk much after we left. For days, she barely said more than yes or no. She didn't eat unless I reminded her. Didn't sleep unless the lights were on. But that 5th night in the motel, she started remembering. Not in words, in pieces. She sat up around 2 a.m. eyes wide, hands shaking. He called it the still room. I didn't know what she meant. She said, "That's where he took you when he wanted to try new things." She started crying but didn't stop talking. She said the cold wasn't just in the walls, it was in him, in his hands. That when he touched you, it felt like being pressed between ice blocks. That he never rushed. That he liked the begging. Said it helped with precision. I listened. I didn't speak. She said he kept a drawer of mouths. Ones he'd sewn shut, saved the lips, put them in a jar. Said they were trophies. Said real silence was worth preserving. She said he talked to them at night, whispered to them like they could hear, told them secrets, told them what parts were hardest to cut. Then she said something that made my blood freeze. He doesn't kill you right. He slices pieces off, makes sure they stay alive. Leaves the ones who scream too much, but the ones who go quiet, he keeps. That's why I didn't scream. I wanted to be useful. I wanted to survive. She rolled up her sleeve, showed me her arm, scarred, but not stitched. A number carved into the skin. 6, small, precise, not ragged, burned in. I showed her mine. She gasped. 5, we matched. He was working through us in order. She said she remembered a boy, a teenager. Number 3, still breathing when he was zipped, still blinking, but his eyes were stitched closed. She said she thinks she heard him again, not in the funeral home, in the walls of the motel. I asked if she was sure. She said the breathing was his. She remembered the way he gasped, like every inhale was punishment. I didn't sleep. I sat in the chair and watched the door, my back to the wall. I kept the bathroom light on, just enough glow to see the edges of the room. Around 3, 0, the knocking started again. 3 taps, then silence, then 3 more. She didn't flinch this time, just whispered. He's following now. I asked how. She said he doesn't need to walk. He moves through the quiet, through places that forget to remember what happened. I didn't understand. She said every town has one place that never gets inspected, one room that never gets rented, one basement no one opens. That's where he shows up. And once he's there, he waits. Until someone like me comes along, curious, broke, alone. Someone who answers the wrong ad. I asked what he wants. She looked at the window. Not escape, not revenge. He wants to finish. Finish what? His work. She said he doesn't just cut. He arranges, composes. He called her clavicle delicate. Said it would look perfect above the embalming tray. Said her spine was the right length to hang with the others. I threw up in the bathroom. Couldn't hold it in. Couldn't process it. When I came out, she was staring at the mirror. Not at herself. Past it. Like something was watching from the other side. She whispered again. He's not in the home anymore. He's looking for a new one. The lights flickered. The vent above the bed creaked. A smell leaked out. Bleach, salt, and something old. She stood up fast, said we had to leave. I grabbed my keys, my bag. We ran, got in the car, pulled out before I even shut the door. We didn't have a plan, just speed, just distance. I watched the rear view the whole time, half expecting to see him sitting up in the back seat. We stopped at a diner 3 hours away. No one else inside. She asked for a corner booth, back to the wall. Still shaking, still silent. She asked if I'd ever felt someone take something out of you that you couldn't name. I said yes. She nodded, then said, "He still has it." I asked what. Her voice cracked. My scream. She said she could still feel it inside him, still echoing, still vibrating in the bags he never buried. And she said if we didn't stop him soon, someone else's would be added to the jar. We didn't want to go back. Every part of me screamed against it, but she said it was the only way to end it. She said he wouldn't stop unless we made him, unless we took the walls he lived in and made them ash. I didn't know if I believed her, but I believed the way her hands trembled every time she looked at a locked door. I believed the way my dreams bled now. How, every time I closed my eyes, I saw steel trays and pale skin and mouths sewn too tight to scream. So we bought what we needed. Gas cans, lighters, gloves. We waited until night, drove through 2 counties in silence. The closer we got, the colder the car got. She said it was him, that the cold didn't come from the air. It came from the things he'd cut out and never let go. The sign out front was gone, just a pole now, as if the name had been peeled off like scab skin. We parked out back, windows dark, doors locked, but the side of the building hummed, a low, steady thrum, like something breathing just beneath the boards. We moved quick. Back door still rusted. Hinges gave with a shove. The hallway was wrong. Not dusty, not collapsed. Clean, repainted, furniture back in place. It smelled new, fresh wood and fresh paint, and something trying very hard to cover the scent of old rot. She stopped at the chapel, looked at the altar. The casket was gone. In its place a table, empty, polished, waiting. I opened the basement door. The lock was gone. The steps had been replaced. The air wasn't just cold now. It was sharp. Every breath felt like it cut through my throat. She followed me down, slowly. Her hand gripped mine the whole time. When we reached the bottom, we stopped. The cold room had been rebuilt. New walls, new steel, new gurneys, everything set in perfect rows. On the far table, a tray of tools, clean, arranged in a fan. Scalpel, bone saw, shears. Next to them, a cloth. A long strip of stitched skin, pale, inked with numbers. The last one was a 7, she whispered. He started over. I walked to the generator room. Still there, still running, but the panel was new. Wires hidden, tamper-proof. She stepped into the corner, froze. I turned. She pointed at the wall. A photo hung crooked. I walked over, looked close. It was us, at the diner, candid, blurry, but clear enough to see our faces. She started crying. I pulled it down. Behind it, carved into the drywall, was a date, the day we left, the night we escaped. I asked who took the picture. She said he never left. He just learned to watch from further away. We turned back to the stairs, but the door at the top was closed. I didn't hear it shut. I didn't hear a lock, but I heard him, the saw, winding up, whining like breath through a hole in your throat. We backed into the cold room, tried the window in the storage unit. Sealed, screwed shut. The gurneys behind us creaked, not from weight, from pressure. I turned. One of the bags had returned, sealed, moving. Something inside was knocking. Soft, measured, not asking to get out, letting us know it knew we were there. She grabbed a scalpel. I grabbed the lighter. I poured gas on the table, on the walls, on the tray of tools. The saw got louder, closer. A door opened behind us. We didn't look. She struck the lighter, dropped it on the tray. The fire spread fast, but not right. The flame moved cold, blue, like it didn't burn the way it should, like it was made for cleaning, not destroying. We ran through the smoke, back to the stairs. The door was open now. The hallway was pitch black, but we could see the exit, almost, until we heard his voice again, just ahead. In the dark, you missed a room. Then something grabbed my arm, cold, sharp. I turned and swung. The scalpel hit flesh. He let go. We ran, out the door, into the woods. The building behind us didn't burn. It breathed. The smoke curled like fingers. The lights flickered back on. The front sign blinked red. One word. Open. We didn't stop running until the trees were behind us and the stars were over our heads again. She collapsed. I held her. We didn't say anything, but we both knew the truth. You can't burn something that keeps itself alive with every breath you give it. You can't kill a man who wears your scream like a mask. We didn't talk for a while after that. We stayed in motels, changed names, paid cash. She started sleeping in closets, said it was safer where the doors couldn't swing open on their own. I stopped sleeping altogether. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the tray, the skin, the number 7 carved just below the clavicle. He wasn't waiting for us anymore. He was working again, and someone else had answered. I found the listing. Same ad, same vague words, new phone number, new city, but the same line in the description. Must be discreet. I called it from a burner. Asked if the job was still available. The voice that answered wasn't his. It was a woman. Calm, polite. Said the role had just been filled. I asked her what kind of caretaker she was looking for. She laughed. Said it's less about cleaning and more about quiet. Then she hung up. I smashed the phone, but it didn't help. That night, someone knocked on our motel door 3 times. Soft, measured. She didn't move, just looked at me and shook her head. It's not him. It's the next one. I opened the door. No one there, but a manila envelope sat on the ground. Inside was a photo. A young man, pale, buzzed hair, thin wrists. He looked scared. On the back was a note. He's in. So are you. We left that night, drove west, changed names again. But something followed. Not him. Not anymore. The work, the path, the silence. Every place we stopped, we saw it. Small signs. A pair of gloves left on a bus seat. A hook still hanging in the back of a storage room. A funeral brochure tucked in a Bible drawer with a date scratched out. I started dreaming about things I hadn't seen. New tables, new numbers, a new girl. lips stitched, trying to scream through the hole in her throat, and always the sound of the saw, not spinning, breathing. She said she could feel the cold again, not in her skin, in her spine. The same chill she had before he started cutting. That's how she knew he was near. I started seeing him in windows, reflections that weren't mine. A face just over my shoulder in the microwave glass, a shape in the shower steam. He didn't chase us anymore. He didn't have to. We were spreading him. Every motel we checked into, every mirror we looked into too long, every locked door we touched, we were seeding the work. One night I found a girl in the stairwell of a highway rest stop. Her mouth was open, but no sound came out. Her eyes wide, terrified. Her lips were red, fresh, just recently unstitched. She grabbed my hand, whimpered, "Please, don't let him finish me." I froze. I didn't know what to say. Then she looked past me and screamed. That was the first time I heard it again. My scream. The one I hadn't let out in the basement. The one he'd taken. Now it came out of her throat, like he'd stitched it into her. I turned. Nothing there, but the walls behind her were wet, not with blood, with steam, the kind that rolls off fresh bleach and cold steel. I carried her to the car. She shook the whole way. She didn't tell me her name. She didn't have to. I knew her number, 8, carved into her palm. She was the next, but she wasn't the last. I checked the ad again a week later. Still live, same pay, new photo, same silence. I tried deleting it, flagging it, reporting it. Nothing worked. Every time I refreshed the page, it came back. The listing was alive, or worse, it was being kept alive. I started thinking about all the people out there like I was, desperate, alone, looking for something simple. A few bucks, a few nights, and I realized that was the point. He doesn't need the home anymore. He just needs a door. Any door. A person, someone to knock, someone to let the silence in. We stopped driving. I stopped talking. She said she wanted to go back, that the only way to stop him is to lock him in. I asked how. She said we'd have to build a room he doesn't want to leave. I didn't understand. She said it has to be alive. The work has to feed on itself, that we'd have to become the walls. I told her that was insane. She said that's exactly what he wants. The work never ends. The scalpel never dulls. The scream always finds a new throat, and someone always answers the ad. She was gone when I woke up. No note, no sound, just the shape of her body in the motel sheets and the smell of bleach still hanging in the air. I searched everywhere. The lot, the gas station next door, the bathroom. I even checked under the bed. Nothing. No one saw her leave. The clerk said he never saw her come in. That I checked in alone. That I always checked in alone. I didn't believe him, but part of me wanted to. It would have been easier than what came next. A knock on my car window, middle of the afternoon. No one standing there. Just an envelope pressed to the glass, yellowed, damp. My name scrawled in red ink across the front. Inside was a photo, a hallway, dirty, tiled. Room doors lined up along one wall. One had a number circled, 17, and on the back of the photo, a message. If you want to see what's left of her, don't open the door. I stared at it for an hour, tried to convince myself it was fake, that it wasn't her, that the message was meant for someone else. But I knew better. I recognized the hallway. It was the old motel on the edge of Mill Hollow, the one that burned down years ago, or said it did. I drove, fast, didn't stop for gas, didn't blink. When I reached Mill Hollow, the road signs were gone. The gas station was boarded up, but the motel was still there, run down, rotting, but standing like something rebuilt it from inside out. The front office door hung open, no one inside, just a guest book with no names, a bell with no ring. The room keys were still on the wall, every hook empty, except for one. 17. I took it. The hallway looked just like the photo. Long, yellow-stained walls, carpet matted with something dark. I counted the doors. 15. 16. Then the one, the door. Old wood, rust around the knob, faint sound behind it. Not movement, breathing. I stepped closer. My hand shook. The key felt warm. I held it to the lock, but I didn't turn it. I remembered the message. Don't open the door, so I didn't. I knelt down, pressed my ear to the wood. At first, nothing. Then a voice. Hers. Faint, scratched. It hurts to stay like this. I whispered her name, asked if she was okay. She said no. Said he was inside now. Said she made the mistake of looking in the mirror too long. Said that's where he waits when you forget what he looks like. I asked if she could come out. She said not unless I take her place. That the door only opens when someone gives up their voice. I didn't understand. She said the number wasn't just a count. It was a weight. The room held everyone in order, 1 to 17. She was the last. And now it was my turn. I said no. She started crying, not loud. Soft, hollow, the kind of crying that sounds like it comes from somewhere deeper than lungs. The knob turned on its own, just a little. Just enough to say it was listening. I backed away, sat against the wall. I asked if he was in there with her. She said no. He's in all the other rooms now, looking for someone new. I asked if she'd gone into the room on her own. She didn't answer, but I knew. She wanted to finish it, wanted to find the root of it, and now she was part of the foundation. I stayed outside the door until the light bulbs in the hallway flickered, until I saw movement under the other doors. Hands pressing out from the carpet. Thin ones, gray ones, clutching at nothing, reaching toward me. I ran, out the front, into the road, got in the car, didn't look back. I drove until the sky got light again, until the motel was just a smear in the rear view, until my ears stopped ringing. At the next gas station, I tried to throw the key away, the one for room 17, but it stuck to my palm, wouldn't fall, wouldn't leave. I wrapped it in tape, stuffed it in the glove box. The lock clicked itself shut. That night, I got another envelope, left on my windshield again. Inside was a new photo, same hallway, new room circled, number 1, and behind the door in the photo, a shadow, tall, apron, bare feet. He was starting over, again. The photo stayed in my glove box for 3 days. I didn't touch it, I didn't look at it, but I heard it when I drove. Heard the edges rubbing against the metal like they were trying to get out. I finally pulled over, opened the box, looked again. Room 1, different door, new location. The hallway was cleaner, walls brighter, carpet without stains. But the shadow was still the same, tall, bent, apron hanging off bone. I flipped it over. This time the message said he doesn't need the room anymore, just the body. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling and counted every tick of the motel clock. At exactly 3:33 a.m., someone knocked on the window. 3 times. I didn't move, didn't answer, just listened. The next morning, I left town, drove without destination, just forward. Eventually, I pulled into a diner, middle of nowhere, gravel lot. 1 waitress, 1 customer. He sat in the corner booth, back to the wall, hands wrapped tight in bandages, smiling at nothing. He looked up as I walked in, nodded once, like he'd been waiting. "You from the ad?" I didn't answer. He chuckled. Said he was too. Said the job was simple. Keep things quiet. Make sure the freezer stayed cold. And never ask what the hooks were for. I sat down across from him. He didn't flinch, just kept smiling. I asked how long he'd been doing it. He said he didn't count days anymore, just screams. I asked where. He said wherever there's vacancy, wherever people forget to look in the corners of the room. He said the last place had a good basement, but no ventilation. Said the one before that had good walls but soft ceilings. Then he reached into his coat, pulled out a small strip of cloth, pale, stiff, stained red. He slid it across the table, told me it was from her. Said she never screamed even when he got to the ribs. I didn't touch it, just stared. He laughed. "You're not ready yet, but he'll use you when it's time." I asked who. His smile faded. "You already know. You helped make room for him." He stood up. His bandaged hands left red marks on the table. He walked out without paying. The waitress didn't even blink, like he'd never been there. I checked the booth. The cloth was gone, but the stain remained. That night, I drove to a small town on the state line, checked into a roadside inn, asked for a room with no neighbors. The clerk didn't look up, just handed me a key, room 7. I didn't ask if that was coincidence. I already knew it wasn't. The room was cold. Window didn't open. Mirror was fogged. The vent above the bed dripped something thick. I slept with the lights on. Woke up to a new envelope under my pillow. Same photo. Same hallway. New door. Number 2. On the back, it said almost full. Almost home. I threw up in the sink. I called every number I had. Police, reporters, paranormal investigators. None answered. Every line went dead. Every voicemail erased itself mid-recording. I looked in the mirror. My face was gray, eyes sunken. And behind me, in the reflection, someone else. Not him, not her. Me, but different. Taller, apron, bare feet, smiling. I turned. No one there. Just the sound of a saw starting somewhere beneath the floor. The next day I found the caretaker again. at another diner, another booth, same smile. He handed me another strip. This one had a number on it, 10. I asked what it meant. He said it was my place in line. I told him I never signed up. He said I did the second I walked into Blackwood, the second I opened the freezer, the second I didn't scream. I left, ran to the car, drove until the road turned to dust, until I forgot my name. But every time I stopped, the number showed up, on motel keys, on receipts, on street signs, 10, always 10, always waiting. That night, I got a knock on the door, 3 times. I didn't answer. The next morning there was no sun, just a letter. This time, no photo, no instructions, just a single sentence. The caretaker is tired. It's your turn to hold the knife. I didn't fight it anymore. Not after the letter. Not after the mirrors started showing me in pieces. Not after the key to room 10 slid under my door while I was wide awake watching it. The handle was warm when I picked it up, like it had been waiting in someone's palm too long. I packed nothing, left the lights on. I didn't need directions. I knew where to go. The motel on the ridge had been boarded up for years, but the vacancy sign buzzed red like it had power drawn from somewhere deeper than the grid. I walked to the door. It opened without a touch. The hallway smelled like ice and ammonia. All the doors had names now, not numbers. Names I recognized. The girl, the boy from the bags, the caretaker, my own. At the end of the hall was room 10, carved into the door with a knife. Not paint, not ink. Carved deep, I put the key in the lock, turned it. The handle didn't move, but the door opened anyway. Inside was cold, not from air, from memory. From blood soaked into the walls, the room had no bed, no table, just a tray, steel, clean, surgical, and a mirror that didn't reflect anything anymore. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me. The light buzzed once, then steadied. A voice rose from the vent, my own voice, but deeper, tired. You've carried it far. Now you have to finish it. I asked what it meant. The voice said the work, always the work. The first cut was an accident. The second was curiosity. The third was control. Everything after that was creation. I said I didn't want to create anything. The voice laughed. Then why did you survive? Why didn't you scream when you saw the girl in the bag? Why did you come back? You wanted to see it, to understand it. So now you will. The wall to the left cracked open. Inside was a room made of steel, every panel carved with numbers. Blood burned into the seams. On the far side, a table, and someone lying on it, breathing, her, lips still, eyes open, not scared, just done. I ran to her. She looked at me and didn't blink, said it softly. You're here to end it. I said I wouldn't hurt her. She shook her head. You already have. Every step you took carried the work. Every motel you slept in passed it on. Every time you told this story, you carved a little deeper into someone else. I didn't understand. She closed her eyes, whispered. You're the house now, the room, the walls. He's inside you, and you built him with your silence. I fell backward, hit the wall. It pulsed. warm, wet, alive. The voice came again. She's right. You didn't carry me. You became me. Now it's your turn to carve. The table in the center of the room gleamed. The tray beside it held tools I'd never seen before. Not surgical, not industrial. Something older, sharper. I heard footsteps, not behind me, beneath me, through the floor, like the building had a heartbeat, and it was getting faster. I looked back at her. Her eyes were empty. She mouthed the words, "Finish it." I picked up the knife. It felt natural. Wrong, but natural. Then the door opened. Another man stood there, young, pale, thin wrists, shaking, holding a note. It said room 11. He looked at me like I was salvation or warning. I told him to run. He said he already had, and this was the last place left to go. I stepped aside, let him in. The room closed. The light dimmed. The saw in the corner started spinning. I didn't touch it. I didn't move. I just watched. And I understood. This was never about death. It was about arrangement, pattern, sacrifice. Not to summon something, but to preserve it. Each room was a chapter. Each bag a sentence. Each scream a breath in the book he was writing with flesh. And now I was the spine that held the pages together. The light flickered. The door behind me creaked. Another envelope slid under it. This time, blank. I opened it. Inside, a mirror shard and a note. One word. Continue. I held the shard to my face. No reflection. Just a window. Another hallway. Another door. Room 12. Ready. Waiting. The voice spoke one last time. The knife doesn't choose who dies. It chooses who watches. And you watched all the way to the end. Now make space for the next one. Then silence. Real silence. Not the absence of sound. The kind that means everything you were is now part of something else. Something sharper. Something colder. Something permanent.